great questions, just to be fair. Even the pipeline one was great, but just went on for a little long.
Carney really is a special character, isn't he? Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we have Mark Carney speaking at the Canadian Club in Toronto in a very arrogant, condescending, and mocking tone. He mocks the oil and gas industry over and over like it's some sort of joke that people are losing their jobs in this sector because of his policies. He seems to think this is a game. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got table salt with this. Well, I told you, Pierre Poilievre lost his riding in Carleton because of the vote coming from the new building developments in Richmond and Riverside South. These areas have the largest immigrant populations according to Ottawa demographics. This is something we brought up a while ago. Now we've got a visual representation. So what we're seeing on the bottom here, it's a little bit cut off, but you can see 2021 down here. This is what it used to look like after the new developments, where you see all these huge red chunks. And that's what's wrong it from 51% of the vote for Poilievre to 45%, and Bruce Fanjoy swinging it from 31 up to 50. And speaking of Bruce Fanjoy, here we have himself bragging about driving an EV and representing rural Ottawa. This is an oxymoron.
We often hear from conservative members about how electricity doesn't work in their province or in rural Canada. I represent a rural riding myself. I drive a electric vehicle. Came in today.
This guy doesn't do any hard work. That's the thing. This guy's not a farmer. He's not a contractor, electrician, a plumber. He's not doing hard backbreaking work that requires ready available fuel. All these blue collar jobs are not going to go plug in their EV and wait 45 minutes for a quick charge to be able to get to the next job site. This is ridiculous. This guy doesn't even know who he represents. And you see a comment here, I drive an EV for 6 years, not having any issues or problems in the winter, so try again with your misinformation. This is another person who doesn't work with a truck, who has to go out in the sticks to do something, especially if you're pulling a heavy load, if you're moving cattle around, you got a horse trailer, you're not driving an EV, you'll run out of power, and then what, you're waiting another 45 minutes an hour for another quick charge to get to the next site? Like, it's ridiculous. The infrastructure doesn't exist, so you'd be stuck out there. That's the point. If you want to drive an EV, they work great in the city. Drive an EV. The point is, we're being forced to drive EVs when they don't work because it enriches the Liberals. So speaking of crazy, we've got Elizabeth May here saying that the planet is on fire and Mark Carney is letting it burn because he didn't take his private jet to Brazil for COP30. Apparently she's having a meeting with Mark Carney. He's going to try to sway her to vote for the Liberals now that things have gotten closer. It's down to one vote.
But I have to say that as a Canadian, I'm a climate activist. I'm heartbroken that Canada is basically missing in action at a critical global meeting right now. So here we are 10 years after COP21 that took place in Paris in 2015. And we're absent now.
She just keeps babbling about this. What's this meeting she's talking about? Well, COP30 in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, they bulldoze a 4-lane highway to have their climate summit.
Deep in the Amazon, where air once hummed with birdsong and the scent of rain-soaked earth, there is now only the growl of bulldozers and the sting of diesel fumes. Families who have lived off the land for generations watch helplessly as their homes, livelihoods, and futures are reduced to piles of felled trees. All to build a highway for world leaders arriving to talk about saving the planet for the November COP30.
Nothing says saving the planet quite like bulldozing tens of thousands of acres of pristine Amazon rainforest.
The hypocrisy.
This in a bid to build a shiny new 4-lane highway, all in preparation for a climate summit. The irony is almost too much to bear. The Amazon, often called the lungs of the earth, plays a crucial role in absorbing carbon dioxide and regulating the planet's climate.
The hypocrisy here is so rich. And Elizabeth May, she doesn't even know what she's talking about. She doesn't know what's going on with this situation, or she does and she's in on it. It's one or the other. Either way, this is ridiculous. When the elites begin to act like there's a C-word crisis, I'll believe there's a C-word crisis. Until that day, it's all BS. Speaking of crisis, we've got Kawichin tribe members handed pollution prevention order over a huge dumping site. The Kawichin are destabilizing Canadian land ownership, and meanwhile, they've got a huge dumping site. Like, deplorable. Moving over to Mark Carney, here we have him arrogantly mocking the oil and gas industry. This entire panel here at the Toronto Club, he's very arrogant, very smug, has a very condescending and cavalier attitude throughout the entire thing.
Why is the government deciding what's in the national interest and what projects get? Can't everybody have access to that?
Everyone can have access, yeah. No.
Constrained growth?
Well, first off, there's certain things you want your government to do. And one of the things you want your government to do I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on this table here. It is unrealistic to ask one company, however big and successful, to build all of the transportation infrastructure into the Ring of Fire, La Fosse de Labrador, the entire Northwest Territory. That's like the government's job. Unlocking ports and port infrastructure, that is also our responsibility. Providing so there's certain things that we do that is our responsibility. And what we're determining with the provinces, with input from the private sector, with input from other stakeholders, is where are we going to get the highest return for doing that? That's the first element.
That's obvious. It's the oil and gas industry. It always provides the most money for taxpayers, period. But it doesn't provide the biggest returns for him. That's the problem here. Canadians are too clueless to understand this.
But the vast, vast majority of the investment that's catalyzed by this budget is decided in rooms like this and the organizations that you represent, because it's the productivity superdeduction. That's just like somebody has to decide to build the data center, the infrastructure, the ITC. Again, looking at the table here, Bruce Power has to decide what they want to do in terms of expanding their generation fleet. So most of it is decided by the private sector. We've just advantaged it tremendously.
So when they've already made the decision to go ahead, you're at least expediting all the checks that you need to.
In many cases we are, but we're also just making the economics of it.
But there are people, you know this, that just...
Such a downer.
You did a great job, but Riley, I'm going to bring us all back down to earth. You know that there are people...
we're not coming back. No. Amber.
Hey, I don't want to
Amber, no, like that. We've had too long down, looking down, not taking risk. This is like this.
Yeah, and who was doing it? The Liberal Party of Canada, your party. The Conservatives were not in power.
The risk is not to take risk. In a situation like this, you've got to decide where you're going. And we got to put capital to work in the country. So you bring us down. Okay, with that. Yeah.
Bring you down.
Yeah.
Just notice that language there. You bring us down. This kind of attitude is cutting down the interviewer because he knows she's going to ask a tough question.
I'm going to say, why can't we go even higher? Let's use the energy sector as an example.
Yep.
There are a lot of things that are preventing them from even bringing a major project to your office, according to them. Bill C-69, emissions cap.
Nope.
I mean, that's what they say.
That's what they say, but they're wrong.
Why?
Yeah, they're wrong. No, they're wrong because literally we are getting projects coming in. We're in discussions with the province of Alberta directly on things. But look, we've also got a view that as shared by the government of Alberta in the grand bargain, I'm going to quote the Premier of Alberta, that the future of oil export is going to be low carbon. So twinning additional, in that case, oil sands development with carbon capture makes sense. By the way, it also helps create a multi-billion-dollar industry for Canada. But
yes, it does. One that you're invested in on the ground level and that you're set to make tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars from. I know exactly what you're doing here, Carney. Most people don't. I'm going to break this down and make it really easy for people, make nice infographics, and we're going to spread this stuff everywhere because this guy's a charlatan. He's squeezing Canada to get rich. This isn't really ugly thing he's doing.
Say energy. Look, we are in a position where the country can grow its grid, clean grid. Our grid is basically clean, 85%, can grow our grid 50% over the course of the next decade, 15 years. That is an enormous amount of investment. We're talking about $150 billion of investment. Think of the scale of the nuclear investment that's likely to happen, that we will, with the province.
That's likely to happen. He knows there's some deal coming from Brookfield. We already know what's going on here, Carney. Thanks for the tip.
Of Ontario, some other provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, likely, we will help advantage and get going. So sometimes...
Yeah, and who's going to get that contract? It's going to be Westinghouse, Brookfield, Cameco. We get it.
Sometimes this discussion about energy pivots down into, is this pipeline going to happen? That is, I mean, don't worry, we look at those issues. It is a totally different ballgame. You look at the scale. Sorry, now you've got me on a run. Because you look at the scale of LNG exports that are going to come. The first shipment of LNG to Asia was in June from LNG 1. We'll be at 50 million tons by the end of this decade. It's likely to double by the end. And every single jurisdiction, I was in Asia last week, every single government wants that LNG, right? We're in a position, we are putting ourselves in a position to export that. And by the way, that LNG, which will displace coal in most cases, so there's environmental benefit. It is, in most cases, top quartile, if not top decile, low emission, Scope 1, Scope 2. So in other words, the liquefaction, other processes are clean. And we're advantaging that with our tax proposals in the budget.
He is advantaging that with his tax proposals, but it doesn't help Canada. That's the thing. It only helps his stocks, his share values, and his funds that he's invested in, or the funds he created himself with Brookfield.
Questions was, is this pipeline going to come?
So boring.
It's not actually.
It is. It is because it's.
Yeah, so it's not, as she just said there, it's not boring for many parts of the country. Carney thinks this is boring because he can't make money from it. Brookfield, for the most part, is getting out of oil and gas in Canada. They sold their big transport tanker. They're investing in America, and they're using Canada as this new test ground for this eco-green garbage.
Look, don't worry, we're on it. We're on it.
And
but there is this
who's going
whole
up to
world.
that party?
Okay, hands up. Who's working on the pipeline in this room? Okay.
This is so arrogant and condescending. People are literally losing their jobs right now at ConocoPhillips. This guy is an a-hole.
Isn't that a problem?
No. Look at all the variety. Like, Nav, we have.
Yeah, if there's more prosperity, they'll get more cell phone services.
But look. Okay, so what's going to drive one of the things with? Yeah, don't worry. We're on the pipeline stuff. Danielle's on line 1. Don't worry, it's going to happen. But, well, something's going to happen. Let's put it that way. It's not very good negotiating by my perspective. But what some in the room
This guy's unbelievable. He basically just admitted he's an awful negotiator. We already know that. You didn't get a deal with Trump. He's mocking Daniel Smith. He's mocking the oil and gas industry. He's mocking the whole situation.
will unlock on the data center side, the intelligence infrastructure side, will have a much bigger impact on productivity in this country. Will have a much bigger impact on our standard of living. And advantaging that, which is what we're doing with the productivity super deduction. Like, it's an easy conversation to have about a pipeline because it's one thing we can see. But the reality is that there's much, much more to the Canadian economy, and there's much, much more to the future of the Canadian economy. And so we're attacking it on all sides.
Well, let's go to
Yeah, on all sides. On the green side, the one he's invested in. This guy is a charlatan and a snake.
the big number. You're winning.
What is this? Him pointing his finger at her? I got you, I win. Like, this is Justin Trudeau antics. He's just like Justin Trudeau.
winning.
No, I'm not. It's not a competition. We're all in this together. We're all in this together.
The big number you've thrown out is $1 trillion that you think you can get from private investments. And you've also said you've been going around the world. You're making these trade deals with other people. You've said we need to diversify away from the United States.
He's not getting trade deals. There are no deals. They're all these phony baloney commitments to nothing. They're not real deals.
So how much of those conversations did you bring into this budget? What I'm asking is, what is in this budget? Is in this budget that is a response to feedback that you've received about what it takes to get those investment dollars in Canada over anywhere else?
That's a great question. I think it reinforced, they're all great questions, just to be fair. Even the pipeline one was great. It just went on for a little long. But the reinforcement on the scope of the super deduction, I think that's important. Like, you got to make it easy. So sometimes these things get sliced too narrowly. I used back with Howie, we used to work in the Department of Finance, and the tax department likes to keep things very narrow. If you're a business, you don't want to think about, and particularly if you're a foreign investor, one of the things is people don't wake up in the morning and think of Canada. And so when they think of Canada, it has to be easy for them to think about it. Okay, it's got the lowest tax rate for investment. I'm going to have regulatory clarity.
Yeah, regulatory clarity, eco-green. This guy doesn't think about Canada. He's 91.6% invested in America.
There's lots of institutional, people know this, there's lots of institutional capital in Canada and very strong banks, so I can get financed if I'm going to move forward. So I think those elements are there.
The U.S. is doing that too, though. So what is the extra thing that Canada?
Well, we have rule of law.
Look at this. When he doesn't like a question, he will interrupt the interviewer and not let them ask the full question. This guy is really quite something.
That's one of the big things. Yeah. So that's true.
Yeah, rule of law. This is coming from the ethical lawbreaker. Are you kidding me? Not only that, he's taking shots at Donald Trump and we don't have a deal. Like, what kind of idiot would do that? Meanwhile, Carney's got more conflicts of interest here than I see with Donald Trump. Does Trump have this many conflicts of interest directly enriching himself? There's a few things I've seen in making this chart for Mark Carney that I've seen Donald Trump probably getting enriched, this stuff in the UAE. This is not my battle to dig into here. Someone else wants to dig into Donald Trump or Joe Biden or any of the other Americans by all means. But from what I see, Carney's the one with stocks that look like this, plus 78%. Are you kidding me? He name drops these and the stocks go through the roof.
Well, I think, I mean, it is an element there, and it's also, look, the nature of the country. Like, this is, look, we're not perfect, but this is a diverse society that thrashes things out in open and comes to decisions and moves forward. Like, it's when you think of that talent strategy, which I referenced in the budget, the 1.7 billion top 1,000 researchers. You have academic freedom, you have stable universities, you have societies you want to bring your kids up in, and particularly if the
do we have a society we want to bring our kids up in right now? We just had someone in a wheelchair get stabbed in front of Parliament in the middle of the day.
Country, if you combine that with ambition, kind of Canadian ambition that we're going to move forward, it's very attractive. And in part,
what ambition? We're paying First Nations so much money, they have no ambition. Canadians are getting poor. First Nations are getting hooked on substances and stumbling juice because they get paid so much money. There's no ambition on these reserves. Our country is so broken.
That is a response. That talent strategy is a response, admittedly somewhat anecdotal, a response to push from those types of people that we would like to get here.
Since we're on the...
You're not going to bring in good people with the state things are. We used to have good people come here because we were the greatest country on earth. Now we're a corrupt crap hole run by corrupt liberals.